Leo stepped off the starship and felt the weight of 1,000 eyes upon him. The Zetherian capital stretched endlessly before him, a city of glittering towers, floating gardens, and rivers of light. Unlike any place on Earth, the air hummed with energy, and the sky shimmered with colors that shifted with the sun. He swallowed hard, trying to steady his racing heart. Every step he took seemed amplified, every glance at him scrutinized. He had trained for months to represent humanity, but nothing could prepare him for the sight of the Zetherian court in person. The reception hall was enormous. Its walls shimmered with crystal-like panels that reflected light like liquid. High above, graceful figures floated silently, their movements elegant, deliberate, and almost impossible for a human to imitate. All around him, alien dignitaries in flowing robes and adorned with intricate jewelry watched him carefully. Their eyes were larger than humans, their skin a soft metallic sheen that caught the light in a way that made them look like living sculptures. Whispers ran through the crowd as Leo stepped forward. He could hear murmurs of curiosity, disbelief, and perhaps even doubt. He adjusted his uniform, a simple earth design that was functional but meant to show respect. His palms were damp. Protocols, etiquette, and countless practice sessions ran through his mind. But now they seemed fragile and meaningless compared to the living beauty of this court. Every movement mattered. Every glance, every word could either impress or offend. And in front of him stood the figure who everyone was watching. The Zetherian princess, Liara. She floated slightly above the floor, her robes flowing like liquid silver, her hair cascading in colors that seemed to shift with her mood. Her eyes, large and luminous, scanned the crowd with ease, resting briefly on each individual before moving on. When her gaze finally met Leo's, he felt something he could not quite explain, a mix of challenge and curiosity. For a moment, the world around him faded, and he could only focus on her. He tried to remind himself that she was just another being, even if she was extraordinary. The ceremony began. Music, unlike anything Leo had ever heard, filled the hall. Notes shimmered in patterns that made the walls pulse with light. Every Zetherian present moved in perfect harmony with the rhythm, their gestures precise, elegant, almost ritualistic. Leo tried to mimic their movements but quickly realized his human body could not match their grace. He felt awkward and out of place, a small figure among giants of elegance and poise. Dignitaries from other planets were present as well. Some whispered to one another in languages Leo could not understand. Others cast him sideways glances, unsure what to make of a human. He knew humanity was still a mystery to most of the galaxy, primitive in technology compared to the Zetherians, unpredictable in behavior, and yet capable of something the aliens could not always measure. Curiosity. Leo hoped that curiosity, the simple desire to understand, might be his greatest strength tonight. At the center of the hall, Princess Liara raised her hand. Instantly, a hush fell over the crowd. Even the music seemed to pause, as if waiting for her command. She spoke, her voice melodic and clear, carrying a resonance that made every ear strain to listen. Leo could not understand all her words, but he caught the tone, an invitation, a challenge. The princess was addressing the audience, daring someone to respond. Leo hesitated. Every instinct told him to stay quiet, to follow protocol, to let others speak first. But then he remembered why he had come to this place. Humanity's first impression mattered, yes. But more than that, he wanted to show that humans could think, care, and speak honestly. Slowly, he stepped forward, his voice steady despite the tremor in his chest. He answered her question with the simplest truth he could find. He spoke of curiosity, of the desire to learn from one another, of the human hope that understanding could lead to cooperation and friendship. His words were plain, lacking the elaborate metaphors of Zetherian speech, but they were honest. He spoke not to impress, not to win favor, but simply to communicate. A silence followed. The court had never heard a human speak this way. Other dignitaries looked at each other, unsure how to react. Leo felt his pulse quicken, worried he had overstepped, worried that his simple words had failed to impress. And then, the princess did something he never expected. She smiled. Her smile was subtle but powerful. It was not the polite smile of a ruler acknowledging a subordinate. It was genuine, warm, and filled with curiosity. She stepped slightly closer, her eyes locking onto his. For the first time, in the long, formal ceremony, the air seemed to lighten. Leo felt an unfamiliar sense of confidence bloom within him. Somehow, his words had reached her. The ceremony continued, but now the attention shifted. Princess Liara's gaze lingered on him longer than anyone else. Other dignitaries murmured among themselves. Leo could feel their curiosity and surprise, their questions and doubts. Why had the princess reacted this way? Why had she chosen to notice him? He did not know. And that uncertainty made his stomach flutter. For the rest of the afternoon, Leo moved through the court, attending introductions, bowing politely, and exchanging brief words with various dignitaries. Everywhere he went, he could feel the weight of eyes following him. Some were skeptical, some cautious, and some intrigued. But always, he felt Liara's gaze like a beacon, guiding him through the unfamiliar customs and strange environment. As the sun of the alien world began to dip below the horizon, casting long, iridescent shadows across the city, the first part of the ceremony drew to a close. Leo took a moment to look around. He realized that humanity's first contact with the Zetherians was not just a diplomatic mission. It was a test of character, of honesty, of courage. And somehow, despite feeling out of place, he knew he had already made an impression. He straightened his posture, squared his shoulders, and prepared for what was next. The most important moment had not yet come: the dinner with the princess, where his fate, and perhaps humanity's first true ally among the stars, would be decided. But for now, he allowed himself a small sense of pride. He had spoken with honesty. He had dared to be human. And in a court of perfection and poise, that was enough to catch the attention of Princess Liara. The hall had quieted, and all eyes turned to Leo. The princess's question hung in the air like a fragile thread, delicate yet commanding. Leo felt the weight of it pressing on him. Every alien in the room seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see if a human would respond with courage or retreat into silence. He knew that saying the wrong thing could be disastrous, but he also felt a strange calm inside him, a sense that honesty was his strongest ally. He cleared his throat, feeling the sound echo oddly in the vast space. The words that came out were simple, not rehearsed, but they carried what he hoped was sincerity. He spoke about curiosity, about the human desire to understand other beings and other worlds. He spoke about empathy, about how humans learned from their mistakes, and how they grew stronger through challenges. His voice was steady, his tone plain, but it carried a warmth and a directness that the alien court had never heard before. Princess Liara's eyes widened slightly as he spoke. Her expression shifted, a mixture of surprise, interest, and amusement. No human had ever dared to answer in such a straightforward way. Others in the court whispered to each other, exchanging glances that ranged from disbelief to admiration. Leo noticed a few alien children in the audience leaning forward, curious, their eyes reflecting the same wonder he felt when he first stepped into this city. As he continued, he realized that the words he spoke were not just for the princess, they were for all of humanity. For centuries, humans had been cautious, fearful of alien contact. They had wondered if the galaxy would accept them, or if their mistakes would doom them to isolation. Leo felt that in this moment, he carried the hopes of every human on Earth. His voice did not waver. He spoke of cooperation, of learning, of sharing knowledge and culture, and of the simple truth that humans valued friendship and understanding more than power. When he finished, silence fell again. But it was different this time. It was not tense or expectant. It was thoughtful, almost reverent. Leo felt the weight of countless eyes upon him, and yet he felt a strange lightness. He had said what he wanted to say, not to impress or manipulate, but to be honest. He realized that honesty, something so ordinary to humans, could be extraordinary in a world that valued formality, strategy, and perfection. Princess Liara's lips curved into a smile, subtle but unmistakable. It was a smile that carried approval, curiosity, and a spark of delight. She leaned slightly forward, her eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made his stomach flutter. The murmurs of the court quieted as all attention focused on her next words. "You have answered well," she said, her voice melodic and clear. Few beings dare to speak with such simplicity and truth. The words seemed to ripple through the air, resonating with everyone in the room. Leo felt a shiver run down his spine. He had never expected praise from a princess, let alone one from an alien civilization that had watched humanity from a distance for decades. Other dignitaries exchanged glances, some impressed, others wary. The humans present whispered quietly among themselves, stunned that one of their own had drawn such direct attention from the princess. Leo felt a small swell of pride, but quickly pushed it aside. This was not the time to celebrate. The moment was far from over. Princess Liara's gaze softened. She tilted her head slightly, studying him as if trying to understand the mind behind the human face. "You see the value in curiosity and understanding," she said, her tone both approving and challenging. "Yet curiosity alone is not enough. Tell me, human, how would you act if your honesty caused conflict? How would you lead when others doubt you?" Leo paused. He could feel the tension in the room, the way every dignitary seemed to lean forward to hear his answer. He took a deep breath and thought carefully. He did not want to speak with arrogance or pretense. Instead, he spoke from the heart. "I would listen first," he said. "I would try to understand the reasons behind their doubt, their fear, or their anger. Then I would act with honesty, showing them the value of cooperation, even if it is difficult. Humans make mistakes, but we also learn. We face challenges and grow stronger because of them. If I can help others see that truth, even in the face of doubt, then I would have done my duty." The princess's eyes sparkled with interest. Her expression shifted from curiosity to admiration. She had spoken to countless beings across the galaxy, many of them polished, trained, or artificially clever, yet none had shown the same combination of courage and humility as this human. Leo could see a flicker of something more personal in her gaze, a recognition of potential beyond what was expected from someone so small and unrefined in her eyes. "You have answered with more than words," she said softly, almost to herself. "You have shown courage. That is rare." Her voice, though gentle, carried a weight that made everyone in the room pay attention. A few dignitaries exchanged nervous glances, realizing that the princess's favor was not a simple gesture, it was significant. Leo felt his heart race. He had expected the question, perhaps, but he had not anticipated this kind of response. He looked at the princess, wondering if she realized the effect her words had on him. Despite the grandeur of her world, the formality of her court, and the alienness of her presence, he felt a connection, a bridge forming across species, across galaxies. Around them, the hall began to shift subtly. Music started again, softer this time, and attendants moved to prepare for the next phase of the ceremony. Yet Leo and the princess remained momentarily locked in that quiet understanding. In her eyes, he saw not just curiosity but recognition. Recognition that humanity had something worth noticing. that humans could surprise even the most sophisticated civilizations. The moment stretched, delicate and fragile. Leo could feel the tension and anticipation of the entire court pressing down on him. Yet he felt calm, confident that he had acted with integrity. His answer had been simple, honest, and true. And that alone seemed to resonate in a place that valued perfection and ceremony above all else. Finally, the princess spoke again, louder this time, addressing the court. This human has answered with courage and honesty. Let all present know that such traits are worthy of attention. Let all beings remember that sometimes the simplest truth is more powerful than the most elaborate display. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Some dignitaries nodded in approval, others frowned thoughtfully. Leo's heart pounded. He had no idea what would happen next, only that he had made an impression, and it was one that might change everything. For the first time since arriving in this alien world, he felt that humanity's place among the stars was not just possible, it was promising. As he stepped back slightly, trying to regain composure, he noticed the princess smile once more. This time, a little warmer, a little more personal. It was a smile that carried curiosity, challenge, and the hint of a connection that went beyond ceremony or politics. In that moment, Leo understood that one honest answer had done more than show courage. It had captured the attention of a princess, and perhaps the beginning of a story that neither humanity nor the Zytherians would ever forget. The air in the grand hall seemed to shift as Princess Liara's eyes lingered on Leo. Everyone in the court was watching, unsure of what would happen next. The moment was tense, like a held breath before a storm. Yet Leo felt strangely calm. He had spoken honestly, answered with courage, and now he waited to see what the princess would do. Then, without warning, Liara raised her hand. Every eye turned toward her as her voice filled the hall. Clear, melodic, and commanding. This human, she said, pointing gently at Leo, will sit next to me at the ceremonial dinner. A ripple of surprise spread through the crowd. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Humans had never been singled out in this way. Many alien dignitaries looked at one another, questioning if this was allowed, if it was proper, if it was even wise. Leo's heart leapt in his chest. He froze for a moment, unsure if he had heard correctly. Yes, the princess continued, her gaze unwavering, her voice calm but firm. Let him sit beside me. Let all here see that courage and honesty are more valuable than formality or ceremony. Leo swallowed hard, his face flushing. He could feel the attention of hundreds of beings, all waiting to see how he would react. Part of him wanted to decline, to step back and allow another, more worthy, dignitary to take the honor. But deep inside, he knew this was not just about privilege. It was a recognition of humanity itself, a signal that humans could stand as equals, not by power, but by character. He nodded, bowing slightly in respect, and the court fell silent. Attendants quickly moved forward, guiding him toward the princess. The path through the crowd felt surreal. Beings of every shape and color parted, some staring in curiosity, others in admiration. Children peeked at him from behind their parents, their wide eyes reflecting hope and wonder. Leo felt as though he were walking into history itself. When he reached the princess, he hesitated for a brief moment. Her eyes met his again, warm, curious, and expectant. She gestured for him to float slightly closer, and he obeyed. Unsure of the exact etiquette, but trusting that honesty and respect would guide him. Liara's robes shimmered in the light, her presence commanding yet approachable. It was clear that she was not making this gesture lightly. This was a test, and she had chosen him. As they moved together toward the dining area, she spoke softly, her voice carrying a playful tone. "You humans are simpler than I expected," she said, a small smile touching her lips. "And yet, your simplicity is refreshing. You do not hide behind elaborate words or rituals. You speak as you feel. Leo laughed nervously. I suppose that's one way to describe us, he admitted. We try to be honest, even when it's difficult. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Liara tilted her head slightly, studying him with interest. It works, she said simply. In a place where everyone tries to impress, honesty is a rare treasure. As they walked through the corridors of the palace, the decorations amazed him. Walls of crystal reflected light in prismatic patterns, and floating gardens stretched high above, filled with plants that seemed to glow softly. The air smelled faintly of sweet flowers, and the sound of trickling water added a calm rhythm to the atmosphere. Leo felt small, but in a good way. Not insignificant, just a human among wonders. They reached the dining chamber, where a long, luminous table had been prepared. The table floated slightly above the floor, and plates shimmered with colors that seemed to shift, as if alive. Dignitaries from across the galaxy had taken their seats, exchanging polite greetings and studying each other carefully. Leo felt a mix of awe and nervousness. This was a ceremony that few humans had ever witnessed, and now he was part of it in a role no human had ever held. Liara gestured to a seat beside her. Sit, she said, her tone gentle but firm. Do not worry about ceremony. Speak as you are. Leo nodded and carefully settled beside her. The moment was strange and exhilarating. The princess was right. There was an ease in speaking honestly, rather than performing. He could feel her curiosity as she glanced at him occasionally, her eyes asking questions without words. The meal began, and while the food was unlike anything Leo had ever tasted, he found it delicious, the flavors complex but balanced. Liara leaned slightly toward him, her expression warm. Tell me, human, she said quietly, what do you hope to achieve here? What does your heart seek? Leo considered her question. It was simple, yet profound. I hope to show that humans can be more than what others expect, he replied. We are capable of courage, creativity, and friendship. I want others to see that we are worth listening to, worth knowing, worth trusting. Liara's smile widened. You speak with truth, she said. Many beings hide their intentions behind words. You do not. That is admirable. She paused, studying him for a long moment. I believe there is more to humans than I first imagined. Perhaps I underestimated your kind. Leo felt a warmth in his chest. To hear this from a princess of one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations was astonishing. He realized that this was more than a simple dinner, it was a bridge between worlds. One honest answer had led to an opportunity he could never have imagined. An opportunity to represent humanity, not just with words, but with courage and character. As the meal progressed, a minor challenge arose. A misunderstanding between two alien dignitaries threatened to escalate into tension. Words were exchanged rapidly, gestures that Leo could not fully interpret. The room grew quiet, eyes shifting toward him as the humans present froze, unsure how he might react. Leo took a deep breath. He spoke calmly, addressing both sides in clear, simple words. He acknowledged their concerns, offered a perspective that allowed them to understand each other, and proposed a solution that honored both parties. Slowly, the tension eased. The princess watched him with interest, her expression a mix of approval and surprise. You have handled that well, she said quietly, her eyes meeting his. Many beings would have faltered. You have shown wisdom and courage, and not just in words. You act when needed. Leo nodded, humbled. I just tried to do what felt right, he said. Liara's eyes softened. And that is what makes you remarkable. Her words lingered in the air, and Leo felt a strange pride. Not for himself, but for humanity. One human, perhaps small and unremarkable in appearance, could still represent the best of what his species had to offer. As the dinner drew to a close, Leo realized that the princess's declaration had changed more than just his position at the table. It had shifted perceptions. Humans were no longer unknown, no longer merely observers. They were beings capable of courage, honesty, and friendship qualities that even the most sophisticated civilizations valued. When he finally rose to leave, Liara gave him a small nod, her eyes reflecting both challenge and curiosity. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "The story of humans in our galaxy is just starting, and you, Leo, have taken the first step." Leo stepped back into the hall, heart racing, mind alive with possibilities. One simple answer, one honest statement, had led him to sit beside a princess, to gain her attention, and perhaps to open a door for all of humanity. He understood now that courage and honesty could move mountains, even in a galaxy where perfection and ceremony ruled. And for the first time, he allowed himself to imagine a future where humans truly belonged among the stars. After the ceremonial dinner, the palace gradually returned to its normal rhythm, though the memory of Leo sitting beside Princess Liara lingered in the minds of the guests. Leo walked through the corridors with her, the soft glow of the floating gardens casting delicate patterns on the walls. Despite the grandeur and alien beauty surrounding him, he felt a sense of calm, as though for the first time in his life, he was exactly where he belonged. Princess Liara glanced at him, her eyes full of curiosity. "You do not follow our customs perfectly," she said with a small smile. "Yet you move through this place with more ease than I expected." Leo shrugged, feeling both humble and pleased. "I am only human," he said. "I do my best, and I try to learn quickly. I suppose that is what matters." Liara nodded thoughtfully. "It is true. Many beings would fail in your place, worried more about appearances than truth. You, however, act with honesty. That is rare, and it is valuable." Thanks for watching. They walked in silence for a moment, observing the palace's wonders. The walls were alive with subtle patterns of color and light, reacting to the presence of those who passed. Gardens floated above them, filled with plants that glowed softly, and flowers that shimmered in colors unfamiliar to any human eye. Water cascaded in delicate streams, suspended mid-air, forming intricate shapes before falling gracefully into crystal basins. For all the beauty, the palace did not feel intimidating with Liara beside him. Instead, it felt alive, welcoming, and full of possibilities. "Tell me," Liara said suddenly, breaking the quiet. "What is it that humans value most when you meet beings so different from yourselves?" Leo thought for a moment. "We value understanding," he said finally. "We want to learn, to connect, and to know that others care enough to listen. We make mistakes, we argue, we fight. But at the heart of it, we try to understand each other. That is why I am here, with you, in this place, to show that humans can be trusted, that we can be allies, not just observers." Liara's expression softened. "You speak with a sincerity that is rare. Most beings speak with careful words, hiding their true intentions behind ceremony or strategy. You are different." Leo smiled, feeling a warmth he had not expected. "I suppose we humans are complicated in simple ways," he said lightly. "We try to do what is right, even if it is not easy, and sometimes that makes all the difference." The princess nodded approvingly. "Indeed. And in this galaxy, that difference can be more powerful than technology or strength." As they continued their walk, a commotion arose in a distant hall. Voices rose, hurried and anxious, and a small group of attendants rushed past them, speaking quickly to one another in the Zetherian language. Liara's eyes narrowed slightly, her movements becoming deliberate and focused. Leo followed her gaze. "Is there a problem?" he asked. "Perhaps," she said quietly. There is always a test, even in times of celebration. Come, you will see. They moved toward the source of the disturbance, arriving in a chamber where two delegations from neighboring star systems argued heatedly. Their gestures were fast, tense, and incomprehensible to Leo, but the concern in the air was clear. A misunderstanding had escalated, and the dispute threatened to overshadow the ceremony and insult those present. Liara turned to him. Human, show me how you would resolve this. Speak as you have spoken today, with honesty and reason. Leo hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward. He could not understand every word, but he could read intentions, emotions, and logic. He addressed the groups with calm, simple words, acknowledging their concerns, listening carefully, and proposing a solution that allowed both sides to save face. Slowly, the tension eased. The delegations nodded, their anger dissolving into cautious cooperation. Liara watched him closely, her expression revealing admiration. You see clearly, and you act without hesitation, she said. Many of my people would struggle where you succeed. This is why your presence here is meaningful. Not just for you, but for all of humanity. Leo felt a flush of pride, but also humility. He realized that this moment was not about personal glory. It was about showing that humans could be trusted, that their honesty and courage could prevent conflict even among beings far more powerful and experienced. After the situation calmed, the princess led him back to a quieter corridor. You have done well, she said softly. You have shown wisdom and courage, and not just in words. Your actions matter as much as your words, perhaps more. That is the mark of a true representative of your species. Leo nodded, humbled. I only try to do what feels right, he said. I hope that is enough. Liara smiled. A small, genuine smile. It is more than enough. In fact, it is remarkable. You carry the best of your world in ways that many cannot. Perhaps humans are not as simple as they seem. Perhaps they are capable of greatness. As the evening drew on, Leo and Liara walked through the palace gardens. The soft light of alien moons, reflecting on the waters and plants. They shared stories of their worlds, exchanging laughter and ideas. Leo learned of Zetherian culture, their history, and their values, while Liara learned of human struggles, dreams, and hopes. Despite the vast differences between their worlds, a bond began to form, built on curiosity, honesty, and mutual respect. Leo felt something he had never felt before, a sense that he was not only representing humanity, but also building a bridge, a connection that might change perceptions across the galaxy. For the first time, he realized that humans could matter, not because of strength or technology, but because of their courage, honesty, and determination to understand others. Liara's gaze lingered on him as they walked. You see the galaxy with open eyes, she said. Many beings are blind to what is truly important, distracted by power, status, or appearances. You, however, see what matters. That is why I trust you, human. That is why I chose you tonight. However, Leo felt a surge of determination. He had never imagined that his courage and honesty could carry so much weight. He knew that this was only the beginning, that more challenges lay ahead, but he was ready. For the first time, he felt that humanity could take its place among the stars, not as insignificant observers, but as beings capable of great impact. As the night ended and the palace settled into quiet, Leo looked out over the glowing cityscape. He thought of Earth, of his friends, his family, and the people he represented. He felt pride, humility, and hope all at once. One simple answer, one moment of honesty, had led him here. And now, with Princess Liara's trust and curiosity, the future seemed limitless. He understood that this was more than a ceremony, more than a dinner or a fleeting gesture. This was the beginning of a story in which humans could prove their worth, show their courage, and form bonds that might change the course of galactic history. And Leo, the simple human who dared to speak honestly, was at the center of it. The morning light of the alien world spilled across the palace, painting the floating gardens and crystal towers in shades of gold and silver. Leo stood on a balcony overlooking the city, the soft hum of distant ships and the quiet flow of light-filled rivers below filling the air. He felt a mixture of excitement and responsibility. Humanity had taken its first steps into the wider galaxy, and he knew that the way he conducted himself could influence how his species was seen for generations. Princess Liara joined him silently, her presence calm and steady. She leaned on the balcony railing, looking out at the city with thoughtful eyes. "The galaxy is watching, Leo," she said softly. "Every action you take, every word you speak, has weight. Do you understand what that means?" Leo nodded. "I do," he said. "And I will not forget. I know humans are still new here, but I want them to be seen as capable, honest, and worthy of trust. That is all I can do." Liara's expression softened. "It is more than enough. You have already made a mark. Today, even those who doubted your kind have seen that humanity is different. You have shown courage, honesty, and wisdom. Those traits matter far more than technology or power." Leo felt a surge of pride. It was strange, feeling recognized not just for his words, but for what he represented. Humanity was often underestimated, dismissed as primitive or chaotic. Yet here, in a civilization older and more advanced than his own, one simple human had proven that courage and truth could command respect. Over the next hours, the palace was alive with meetings, discussions, and diplomatic exchanges. Leo accompanied Princess Liara as she met with leaders from other star systems. Every conversation was a lesson in diplomacy, culture, and strategy. He listened, asked questions, and occasionally offered insights, always speaking honestly and respectfully. His presence reminded everyone that humans were not mere observers, they were participants, capable of understanding and contributing. During a pause in the meetings, Liara led him to a quiet garden, suspended, high above the palace halls. Flowers glowed softly under the alien sun, and small streams of water floated in delicate arcs through the air. "Leo," she said, "you have done more than answer a question or sit beside me at dinner. You have opened a door. You have shown that humans are not only capable of courage, but also of wisdom. That is rare." Leo smiled. "I only tried to act with honesty. I could not have done this alone. Humanity is full of people who care, who try to do what is right. I am just one of them." Liara's gaze lingered on him. "That may be so, but it is often the first step. The one who dares to act, who changes perception. You have done that. Your kind has potential, and I see it. Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated humans for too long." As they walked through the garden, Leo thought of Earth, its people, its struggles, and its dreams. Humanity had always looked to the stars with curiosity and hope. Now, for the first time, other civilizations were looking back, not with condescension or fear, but with interest and recognition. Leo realized that this was a moment of transformation, one that could shape the destiny of his species. Later, they returned to the main hall where a larger gathering was convened. Representatives from multiple worlds awaited the princess's address, and she turned to Leo with a small nod. "Speak with me," she said, "and let your voice show the galaxy what humans are." Leo stood beside her, and when she gestured for him to speak, he did so with honesty and courage. He spoke of humanity's desire to learn, to cooperate, and to build friendships across the stars. He spoke of mistakes, growth, and resilience. His words were simple, yet they carried weight because they were true. The aliens listened, some nodding thoughtfully, others exchanging surprised glances. Here was a human, speaking not to command, not to manipulate, but to communicate and share truth. After he finished, Liara addressed the assembly. "This human represents more than his own actions," she said. "He represents a species capable of courage, honesty, and understanding. Let all here remember that truth and integrity matter, regardless of form, strength, or age of civilization. Humanity is not to be underestimated." Whispers ran through the crowd, and for the first time, humans present felt seen not as fragile newcomers, but as beings capable of shaping galactic relationships. Leo's heart swelled. One person, one voice, had begun a ripple that might grow into something far larger. Later, in the quiet of her private chambers, "You have done well, Leo. But this is only the beginning. There will be challenges, tests, and decisions that will weigh on both you and your people. Are you prepared for that?" Leo met her gaze steadily. "I am," he said. "Not because I am fearless, but because I know that humans can rise to the challenge. We learn, we adapt, and we act with honesty. That is our strength, and I will do my best to show it." Liara smiled, a warmth in her expression that went beyond politeness or duty. "Then I believe your people are in good hands. And I am glad to see that courage and honesty can still find a place in a galaxy so vast and complex. You are small, human, but your impact is not." Leo felt a quiet determination settle within him. The universe was vast, full of civilizations older and more powerful than his own. Yet humanity had something unique: heart, courage, and the willingness to act with truth. One simple question, one honest answer, had led him to sit beside a princess, and now it had led him to represent the best of his species in a galaxy filled with possibility. As the sun set over the alien city, casting shimmering patterns across the palace towers and gardens, Leo and Liara stood together, looking out over the horizon. He understood that this was not the end of his journey, it was the beginning. Humanity had a place among the stars, and he had taken the first step. One voice, one action, one human had proven that even in the vastness of space, courage and honesty could be recognized, respected, and remembered. Leo realized that he carried not only his own hopes but the hopes of every human who had ever looked at the stars and dreamed. And he knew that as long as humanity acted with courage, integrity, and curiosity, they could face any challenge, make allies of strangers, and leave their mark on the galaxy. The princess turned to him once more, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the alien moons. "Remember this, Leo," she said quietly. "Greatness is not always in power or knowledge. It is in the courage to act, the honesty to speak, and the will to do what is right. You have shown this, and for that, you are worthy of trust." Leo smiled, feeling a deep sense of purpose. "I will not forget," he said, "and I will do my best. For humanity, and for the galaxy." As they stood together, looking out over a world that was both strange and beautiful, Leo understood that one simple question, one honest answer, and one act of courage had changed the course of his life, the perception of humanity, and perhaps the future of the galaxy itself. It was the beginning of a story that would unfold across stars, a story in which humans, guided by honesty and courage, could rise to meet their destiny.